and welcome to New Music Not at the Green Mill. I'm Janice Misurell-Mitchell, one of the Chicago composers on the program. And before we begin, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about my music. You can find out what I do more explicitly on jmisurell-mitchell.com, and there are lots and lots of things on YouTube, most of which I am okay about. A lot of my work involves the relationship between two different aspects of the arts, very often between sound and abstract shapes, sometimes between sound and voice, and then sound and movement. And the most recent relationship of sound and movement has been with the fabulous group that I have performed with called Freedom From and Freedom To. And we perform at Elastic, and you can see us on YouTube also. Another recent piece has been a commission by the Chicago Composers Orchestra, and this was back in January when we thought everything was okay. And I'd like you to have a look at the pieces that they have commissioned for that winter concert as well. My piece is called Orisons. Another thing that I'd like to also mention is the Ear Taxi Festival, which had been slated for this October, but will now be on October 2021's docket. And I have a piece on that has been a commission called Resistant Noise. This is another area that I'm working in where I deal with sound and the political in various ways, sometimes ironically, sometimes explicitly, sometimes a little bit over the top, but always with some kind of focus that is looking for different ways to understand relationships of the political through music and sound. I thank Amy and New Music Chicago for this opportunity to perform. The piece I'm going to perform today is based on a combination of two poems called Blooz Man and Poet Woman. They were written by Reggie Gibson, who had been in Chicago until I think maybe early 2000s. He's now in Boston, and you can find what he's up to and his work through reggiegibson.com, and it's Reggie with one G, so pretty easy to find. We had met through various performance venues and talked about how I might use his poetry in one of my pieces. And I had in mind a very long piece, a substantial piece for a flute, alto flute, clarinet, and bass clarinet, which was commissioned by Richard Nunemaker, who had been in the Houston Symphony for several decades and had become a good friend. And we had talked about how I might have political poetry in the piece. So that piece is a long piece, and it begins with poetry of Allen Ginsberg and ends with Reggie Gibson. Reggie's work is very evocative and very tied in with what you might understand as spoken word and the personal as well. And when we talked about how I might use his poetry, he said, listen, it's in manuscript now, it will maybe be eventually in that form, maybe in some other form, but you are totally welcome to use it. You can add things, take out things, combine things, which I did in taking Blooz Man, one of his poems that is very strong, and you'll hear what it does, and then combining it with Poet Woman. And the two kind of have very different sides to themselves, as does the music. So I'm now going to perform the piece based on the phrasing and the contours of the poem that I then use in the music itself. Blooz Man, Poet Woman for solo flute is a version that uses the music from the last part of the larger piece and kind of combines the flute part and the clarinet part with a bit of voice. I is the blues. The blues is I. I is the seraph whose wings beat hatred and the demon who smiles redemption. Holy, holy, song of generations sired by loins of war, the white sail blown by winds of profit, sailing on seas of black severed hands. I is the scream, I is the whine, I is the whisper, I is the blues. I is the singer, the blues calling singer, poet woman, word bringer, blues calling verb slinger. I is the blues is I. soprano choir, setting fire. That last bit of will your pain cannot kill, cheating death with the breath of survival. I is the singer, the blues callin' singer. I is the blues is I. Is the seraph whose wings beat and the daemon redemption. Holy, holy, stand the generations, serve the lines of the the wind sing blown by winds of trumpet, sailing on sea.